Welcome back. Our last guest is holistic grief counsellor Gemma Kyriakou, and we'll be discussing how to manage the grief of a miscarriage. Welcome, Gemma.
Thank you, Melissa.
How can we support parents that are going through miscarriage?
A lot of women I know will want to self-isolate and hide away. It's really staying in contact, and even just a text message to keep the lines of communication open, talking about it, not pretending like it never happened. A woman's body will be going through so much physically and emotionally, and we need to allow her space for that to process. Emotionally, there's a lot that's happening hormonally. The woman's body will be going through a lot physically as well, which will have a painful aspect to that, whether she decides at whichever week she miscarried, she will have the decision on whether she would like to miscarriage naturally or through a procedure, and that again will depend on other factors as well. Now we also have to remember the partner's mental health through this. Generally, the husband, he has to, come in and support and hold space for his partner through such a difficult time, which he can't 100% relate to. He doesn't understand what it's like to lose, a life inside of you. And there's nothing you can say to a woman or parents, for that matter. There's nothing you can say to them to make them feel better in that moment. The best thing you can do is literally just to be there for them. But with looking after the man's mental health, the husband, the partner's mental health as well, and checking in on them to see how they are, because the emphasis will generally always be on the woman, which we have to, because physically she's going through something that is very traumatic. There isn't anything you can say to a woman to make her feel better, or parents, for that matter, to make them feel better in the situation of a miscarriage. I know for myself, going through a very long fertility journey, and having procedures, going through IVF, and then getting pregnant with my first baby, and then seeing the baby on the monitor and the heartbeat, and then the baby died. There's nothing you can say to a woman that goes through that, because it was such a long journey to get there. And then, that happened. It can affect your faith in, say, your religion. That's very common to happen with such traumatic endings. But I can tell you, in time, you do get that faith back again. It's a lot to process, and we have to acknowledge our feelings and our emotions. I definitely wanted to self-isolate. I wanted to hide away until I got pregnant again, just to make it easier on myself, because there's always christenings, there's always kids' birthday parties, and you get to an age in your life as a woman where, like, all your friends are getting married and having children. And it's very painful to have to, see, you're happy for people, of course you are. You're really happy for people to, announce their pregnancies. There's no doubt about that. But it's also really painful when you haven't got there yet, and you've had miscarriage after miscarriage, or you're on a really long IVF journey. So we need to, again, really acknowledge those feelings, and everything we feel is validated, keeping those lines of communication open, talking to a friend, because we don't want to get to a place where we're mentally affecting ourselves. We don't want to have anxiety. Our bodies need to be in homeostasis to carry, a pregnancy to term. That's what we need to be.
Is miscarriage still a taboo subject?
It's a very sensitive topic, and I like to think that society is becoming more compassionate and aware of miscarriage and how to support women and parents in this very challenging time of their lives. Miscarriage Australia statistics show that 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, which primarily happens in the first trimester. That's 25% of pregnancies, which actually equates to 285 miscarriages per day. That's a lot. But not to instill fear into anyone. This is really just having an understanding and knowing that you're not a number. Whilst it does happen frequently, this is to have some understanding about how fragile life can be. There are many factors as to why miscarriage occurs, and some of the reasons are completely unknown.
So what advice would you give for people dealing with the grief of a miscarriage?
The advice I would give to people that are experiencing miscarriage is to literally take each day by day. You really have to be kind to yourself, honour how you feel, really look after yourself, really set yourself personal boundaries. If it's going to be too much for you to go to that birthday party, don't go. We're not talking about avoiding situations forever, but in the short term, a slight distraction of not going can be beneficial. Avoiding our triggers long term is not something I would advise, but short term, just do whatever you need to do to get through to the next stage of your healing journey. And of course, always, if you feel that you need extra support, talk to someone, a professional that knows what you're going through, so you can feel understood and not misunderstood as many people do. Because what happens when we go through such traumatic experiences, we can express ourselves in a way that is misunderstood through anger or rage, or just isolation and not saying anything. Everyone will react differently. So really just to be kind to yourself and find that support with someone that can resonate with how you feel and take you through the steps to feel emotionally well again.
Thank you for sharing your story with us today, Gemma.
Thank you.
If you'd like to know more about how to manage the grief of a miscarriage and Gemma, go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's all we have time for today. Until next week, goodbye.